What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got a treat for you. We've got a big treat for you, ladies and gentlemen, because it turns out the lovely folks over at Weiss Schwarz thought it might be a good idea to give us an exclusive reveal, a few cards to reveal from the upcoming Avatar expansion that as of this moment cannot be seen anywhere else. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little bit biased with this one, I grant you, but yeah, I think that's a pretty gosh darn good idea as well. So shout out to the lovely folks over at Weiss Schwarz for giving us some exclusive reveals. However, before we get to that nice and quickly, I thought it might be fun to have a very quick run through the basic rules of the game for those of you that may not be aware. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you in the description what you need to skip to just to see the cards. But for those of you that want a little bit of a primer, here we go. Now, in terms of types of cards, it's kind of what you would expect. Character cards do the fighting, event cards give you little boosts, and then you've got climax cards, which are kind of like your stage cards, as we might say in other games, and basically you play them during your turn to give you a bit of a boost during that turn. Job's a good un. If you have a little bit of a look at the play here, basically you've got center stage, that's where you play your characters to fight. Backstage, that's where you play your characters to help you out. And then this is where it gets interesting. Now, stock is what you build up to pay for cards. Deck, that's probably self-explanatory. Waiting room is essentially your discard pile. And memory is for cards that have been removed from the game. They're taken away, you can't use them anymore. But then we've got clock and level. Basically, as the game goes along, as you take damage, cards build up in your clock. And when you reach 7 cards in your clock, you are forced to go up a level. And if you hit level 4, you lose the game. Simple as that. That is generally the way you lose the game. But there are fun things. One of my favourite rules in the game is the clock phase. So you've got the usual thing, right? Stand phase, pick your characters up. When they're rested, they go active, jobs are good 'em. Draw phase, you draw a card. Again, fairly standard. But then the clock phase, you either put a card from your hand into the clock and draw 2 cards, or you don't. Putting cards in your clock, that means, that's a little bit bad because you're getting closer to losing the game, but you get to draw a couple of cards, which is clearly a very good thing. It's also worth pointing out that characters, there are certain levels that you need to be. So for a character card, you've got the cost of the card, but then you've also got the level that you need to be at in order to play the card. So if you're not at level 3, you cannot play a level 3 character. So sometimes it's worth trying to accelerate leveling up, just so you're then able to actually play the cards that you want to play. So during the main phase, all fairly standard, you can play cards as you like, but you can also move characters around the stage, which as we're going to see in a moment is very important. So they're in different positions, which can be pretty gosh darn big. And then you've got a climax phase where you can play a climax card, which essentially gets played for free, but it only lasts for a turn. During the end phase, if you have a climax card in the climax area, it has to go away. You also discard until you've got 7 or fewer cards remaining in your hand. Now, in terms of attacking, this is where it gets really kind of interesting, because you can either do a frontal attack, that is where you are attacking an enemy directly in front of you, i.e. another character. You can go for a side attack, where you are trying to actually take away your opponent, i.e. deal damage to them, increase their clock, etc. But if you do that, your soul points are reduced by the level of the enemy character. If they're a level 2, your soul points are reduced by 2. Soul points essentially are these little symbols, and it tells you how much damage you do, how many cards are added into the clock. So you can avoid your opponent's characters, however, you do have a less effective attack when you do so. Or there is a direct attack where you are attacking, but there isn't a character directly in front of you, and then your soul points actually increase by 1 when you do that. Hence why moving around the stage can be such a big deal, because of course moving around the stage means you can attack without a character directly in front of you, which is a good thing. There is also then a trigger step. Every time you attack, the top card of your deck gets turned over. If there is a trigger icon, it will activate, giving you various bonuses, maybe drawing a card or things along those lines. And then the card gets placed into your stock. Remember, the stock is essentially the cards you have available in order to use, well, to pay for cards, basically. That is your resource well, so to speak. There is also a counter-attack step, whereby only the player receiving a frontal attack will be able to use a card of a counter icon to, well, try and save yourself. There's plenty more to the game than that, let's be clear, but I think as a primer with the basic rules, that will do quite nicely. So with that borne in mind, let's have a look at the cards that the lovely folks at Weiss Schwarz have given us. So we've got Katara, Saving Aang, a level 3 2-cost card with 2 soul points and 9,500 power. It's a level 3, it's got high power, this is a big thing. It's got a continuous action whereby if all of your characters are World of Avatar, this card gets plus 1,000 power. So if you've gone full World of Avatar, hey, you're now 10,500, that's even better. There's then an Auto CX combo, which sounds super fancy, but it really just means it refers to a specific card. So when this card attacks, if Spirit Water is in your climax area, and the total level of the cards in your level is 4 or higher, put up to 1 card from the top of your clock into your waiting room, bearing in mind, clock means you're getting closer to leveling up and losing, so taking cards out of your clock into your waiting room is a good thing. And this card gets the following ability until the end of your opponent's next turn. Auto, at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, choose up to 2 of your opponent's characters, and those characters get -1 soul until end of turn. So basically, you're taking a card out of your clock and popping it in your waiting room, that's a good thing, and you're taking 2 of your opponent's characters and giving them -1 soul, and obviously you're going to be trying to take the ones that are more likely to have effective attacks. You are weakening them. This is a very good thing. Oh, and there is a trigger effect here. This one means increase your character's soul points by 1 for the duration of the turn. And hey, before we move on, how about showing you a rarer version of the same card? You can see here it is exactly the same card. We've just upped the rarity and, if I may say so, given it an even cooler illustration. Oh, and because it's an SR or super rare, it means it has a foil treatment, which is wonderful. But if we're going to talk about a card that works with Spirit Water, we should talk about Spirit Water. What we've got here is a Climax card, and we've got Continuous. All of your characters get plus 1,000 power and plus 1 soul. Now, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to this game, I will happily admit. However, extra power and dealing extra damage, I mean, come on, that seems like a pretty good combination to me. This one also has 2 trigger effects here as well. So we've got the same one that we saw a moment ago that just increases your soul points by 1 during the turn. But then there's also that symbol that says you may select 1 climax in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So basically, you take a card which isn't available, a climax which isn't available, bearing in mind they go away at the end of the turn, and then it goes back into your hand. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot be the only one that thinks that sounds extremely cool. I mean, honestly, it should mean that you can get this going a lot more often during the game, and that, to me, seems like a pretty good thing. Oh, and this is actually a pretty good time to tell you about another cool rule that I didn't mention earlier, because there is a thing whereby when damage is being done, obviously you are taking cards and putting them into your clock. That's what damage is. However, when damage is being done and cards are being put into your clock, if a climax card appears, all damage done is negated, and all of the cards are sent to the waiting room rather than the clock, which is honestly a really, really cool thing. For this reason, as you may imagine, the number of climax cards that can be played are limited in your deck. Obviously, that you can play a maximum of 8 in total, because they negate damage when they come out during the damage phase. I mean, come on. That's not going to work, ladies and gentlemen. Or the damage step. That is not going to work at all. So this seems like a cool card, and hey, here's a better rarity version of it. We have gone from a CR to a treble R here, and this is a very, very cool illustration. Again, once again, same card, same effect, same everything, but we've gone up in rarity, we're getting a foiling treatment, and it looks a little bit different. A couple of other cards we can talk about very quickly then. We've got Katara playing with water. Level 0, 0 cost card, 1 soul point, 500 power. So it's a small early game card. And it's got an auto whereby you can rest one of your other World of Avatar characters. And when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one card in your level and one card in your waiting room, exchange them, choose up to one of your characters, and that character gains 500 power until the end of the turn. So a card from your waiting room ends up in your level. One thing that is important is that if you want to be playing a card, there must be a card in your clock or level with the same colour as the card you want to play. So this is one of the reasons where you may be wanting to swap a card out between your level and your waiting room. You've then got auto, pay 1. When this card is placed onto the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost, the 1. If you do, choose a healing lessons in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So you get a card back. What is healing lessons? Well, it is a level 2, 1 cost card. It is an event card. Because, yay, we get to show one of them off as well. Also, shout out to Weiss Schwarz for giving me kind of pairs of cards to work together. It's just more fun doing it this way. And you may choose one of your level 2 or higher characters with Katara in its card name and return it to your hand. If you do, choose one of the following effects. You can choose up to 1 Katara saving Aang. That is, of course, what we talked about a second ago. That's the big fancy one we mentioned. In your hand, put it in any position of your stage, and that character gets the following ability until the end of your opponent's next turn. This card cannot be chosen by your opponent's effect. Yeah, that's pretty good, because the effects are going to try and get rid of it. They ain't going to do that now, are they? And put up to 1 card from the top of your deck into your waiting room. Choose one of your characters. That character gets 3,000 power until the end of the turn, and put this card into your memory. So, I mean, look, you get a card from the top of your clock into your waiting room. Again, that's a good thing because you're further away from leveling up. Then you gain 3,000 power, which is a big jump in power. But then this card goes into your memory, so it's gone. Katara playing with water cannot recover it, because that recovers from your waiting room, and unfortunately when you do this, the card goes into your memory. Essentially, hey, you got a really good effect, that's lovely, now put this card in your memory. Alright, it's done. You're not doing that again. Seems fair to me. One more shout out to the lovely folks over at Weiss Schwarz for letting me have these reveals. Those dudes are awesome, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me which of these cards look fun. Tell me how hyped you are for this Avatar set. Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy. That's where we talk about a bunch of card games, including Weiss Schwarz. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord. There's lots of fun to be had over there. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wassy Plays.